Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome if you're joining us for the first time virtually, and a welcome back if you're back in the room. Our speaker on this particular breakout is Nick Condon, who's Managing Director of Squiz. I've just been talking to Nick, and he started the pandemic in Australia with his family, sort of working away in the government response, and it went extremely well. And for reasons which no doubt he will explain, he's moved his entire family here in March because, frankly, he got fed up with the sunshine in Australia. So his timing is absolutely immaculate. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nick to the stage.
Oh, sorry, I was still on mute. I got that joke that's funny when I did it to the kids yesterday. Good morning, everyone. As we said, my name's Nick Condon. This morning, a really interesting conversation, which is no doubt on all our minds, around post-pandemic digital investment. A lot of things happen very quickly. Where to from here? That's the big question. So my name is Nick. I do lead the team of awesome digital experts in Europe and the UK for Squiz. And as Mark just kind of said, I actually started the pandemic heading up government digital services in Australia. And so my first taste of the pandemic was actually policy response and digital response for government. A fascinating spot to be and to see COVID in a very different lens, especially so early on. And then to move here and now manage, I guess, COVID in a very different sense as far as leading a team through many digital transformation projects and helping customers across higher education and government and enterprise with their own digital transformations. The board would knock me on the head if I didn't at least say what our technology is and who we are, and then I'll get into a little bit on actually the topic at hand. So Squiz are a digital experience platform company. We provide the websites, the enterprise search, the integration, and this, all the other technology that goes about creating really seamless digital experiences for citizens, for students, and for customers. And we do that through a range of different pieces of technology. We've been around for over 20 years. We started in Australia originally, and back in the early days, we started with a content management system, like a lot of people. Since then, we've realised that for big, complex organisations, things like search and finding the right content is really important. And so we have an enterprise search product called Funnelback. We understand that personalisation and understanding your customers better is incredibly important. So we have a personalisation tool or a data tool, CDP, called Data Store, and that helps store all the data, as the name may or may not suggest, to make sure that all that information on your customers is at hand and can be used to deliver really great experiences. And finally, connect, because these days we're running lots and lots of different systems. How do we integrate them all? How do we create for what at the end of the day for that citizen is a seamless experience? And so connect in a lot of ways is the tablecloth that goes over the top of the table, hides all the systems underneath and leaves you with a really smooth experience on top. So there we go. I get to keep my job. I've done that piece. You may see in the original information, we started with this topic being about post-pandemic digital strategy. But the more I spoke to some of our customers over the last few weeks, we realised that the strategy is part of it. But actually the investment is where there's a lot of questions at the moment. And so we've prepared a playbook on digital investment. It covers everything from teams through to formulas to use in business cases, through to what your individuals within your organisation should be doing and thinking about post-pandemic. So that's what I'd like to do first. Let's do the background. The last 18 months, brace yourself in 5 minutes. And for no doubt all of us, this is kind of how it felt at some point over the last 18 months.
The question now is, how do people respond to their scandals?
For the wider region, I think one of your children has just walked in, but I mean, shifting sands in the region, do you think relations with the North may change?
It's unclear at the moment what effect former President Gun-Hay's impeachment will have on the territories. Unfortunately, discontent in South Korea is not only related to President Gun-Hay's administration.
Okay.
This is a major embarrassment for South Korea, who often criticises the North of corruption, and who now find themselves in the middle of a massive corruption case themselves.
Sorry, you do look rather busy there. We can reschedule
President Gun-Hay is very likely to face jail time too.
Okay.
I would argue, in an attempt to make an example of her.
Right, so what does this all mean for the future of South Korea?
So the future of South Korea really hangs in the balance.
Oh my God, is that a bomb?
And it'll be
Goodness
interesting
me.
to see how the North reacts to this new shift in power.
Indeed. Well, this certainly has been... Sorry, your husband is...
I anticipate there'll be more to come from this region in the next few months.
Kate Wordsworth, you're obviously busy. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, let's find this sock.
It's a really good summary of how quickly our worlds collided, right? And when I say quickly, I mean quickly. We all wish that this was the expectation. People be seamlessly, working from home, getting up in the morning, everything's working, everything's connected. I can spend my day being really efficient and really effective. And then the reality, you're probably sitting somewhere with at least something presentable above your waist. Most people, pajamas below, tracksuit pants, something a little more comfy. Maybe it's even the obligatory cup of tea with a sticky taped tea bag hanging out of the side, filled with something a little more enjoyable on the inside maybe. But I guess for us as individuals in our workplaces, we definitely felt this kind of huge impact of COVID. The reality is for organisations, they felt it too, right? Previously, I was a chief digital officer, and this slide pains me that after huge amounts of time working with boards, working with stakeholders, business cases, trying to lead digital transformation over multi-year platform programs, the pandemic, it made the big change for us, and it made it incredibly quickly. You speak to most organisations, the rate of change, the rate of speed that happened in orgs based on their response to COVID-19, both from a customer perspective, but also inside for their staff, was absolutely astronomical. And I guess it's no secret that COVID's helped move things faster too. We have a look here. McKinsey had some really interesting research talking around the accelerated pace of which working from home and collaboration happened. And I guess this feels probably quite close to home for a lot of us. There's been lots of changes, and I think it's fair to say for a lot of the changes that are made, we're not going back. Or at least there's a lot of our teams that don't want to go back. I think the reality is that it's a balance, right? Some things have changed and some things are now permanent. And that's actually not such a bad thing. We've been able to move at a pace and speed that has defied governance. It's defied lots and lots of red tape. And it's defied a lot of the resistors that often exist in our organisations as well. So it's been great that we've been able to move ahead at pace. Businesses have moved fast. And when you think about the change that's happened, organisations having to move, especially where organisations exist in a way where they are very face-to-face. A lot of our customers are in higher education. Their campus is their experience. People come and they immerse themselves with new friends, with clubs, with usually the drinking room. But on top of that, there was a lot of university connection, right? So universities really relied on having those people in their campus to engage with them. And the need to move to digital channels and try and keep that level of engagement high was incredible. Business moved fast, and coming from someone who's worked in government, I can happily say this, shock horror, even government had to move fast. I don't know how many public sector employees might be in the room today, but government does move slow at the best of times. And to be able to see governments have to respond not in months, not in weeks, but in days or potentially in weekends. I showed this as our COVID response website for the government that I was looking after in Australia. Our entire website and open data declaration, sharing of public data around COVID-19 was done in a weekend. A weekend. They usually don't even write the introductory agenda in a weekend, but to make that kind of change really showed how we needed to respond. And how quickly? Well, if you have a look at some of the data, we're talking about 7 years of transformation. Marty McFly's impressed by that. So where does that leave us then? Well, it leaves us in a really interesting spot because we've made all this change. We've done all these things really, really quickly. Some of them imperfectly. And I think, for the most part, we're all still here. Things are still running. We're all okay. So what does this say about the model we operate under, our risk profile, how we approach investment, how we approach digital transformation, and how we could look at reapproaching it in the future? And so I think for me, what's also happened in a lot of organisations that I see is that because of COVID, because of this innovation that's needed to happen at speed, we've actually created a lot of agile organizations without even realizing. Doing things, getting it done quickly, and then going back and fixing the things that are important, that need to be addressed, and being okay that, 80% is probably good enough. It's a risk profile that I think we all need to adopt better. And as I get into the playbook a little bit, hopefully you'll see there's some tools and some metrics you can use to help support that adjusted risk profile and making your stakeholders, your investors, boards, and other cohorts feeling a lot more comfortable about it. So as I was kind of talking through, we are happy with good enough. I hope we are. And as part of that, we know that there's about a quarter of the organisations that through our UX projects maybe felt rushed, but the huge amount of organisations that still felt getting it done was more important. A little sassy girl here. The other thing I think which is really important is to look at the way we did it. And we all got a lot more sassy, right? Software as a service. We didn't have to think about deploying huge servers, lots and lots of technology, buying, lots and lots of computers. I mean, there was a shortage for starters of a lot of server technology. So we needed to think, how can we deploy? How can we get experience at speed? How can we get that outcome we require with the lowest risk, the lowest investment, and the lowest amount of heavy uplifting? And software as a service is a way that has significantly gone about that. If you take a look at some of the stats, and this one I found really quite compelling, about 12% of companies deployed cloud-based apps in 2008. And obviously technology has propelled as well. But you can see the huge amount of organisations that during 2020 to 2021 have invested in cloud-based solutions. It allows remote working easier. It absolutely allows deployment at speed. And it's the kind of cost model that allows you to grow. As your business grows, your investment can grow. But I think you've only been listening to the news the last few days to know that we're not out of the woods yet. We are still very much in an unknown space. And more so, the disruption will continue. I've seen a lot of organisations who have come out very early and said, nobody ever has to work in the office again. Wow. That's great. If you, as an organisation, feel comfortable to make those kind of calls while we're mid this storm, amazing. But I think there's a more pragmatic approach, something that works for everybody, not just the executives who want everyone inside the office, and not just for the staff that never want to step foot out of their house again as far as work goes. So how do we maintain the propensity for change in a risky environment where we're not sure what's going on, but we know digital has to be a big part of it? Well, let's deep dive into a playbook. And I just want to quickly talk through this morning, this playbook which we've created. I'm going to cover a couple of pieces of it. It's pretty in-depth. There's formulas, there's some worksheets, there's roles and responsibilities for individuals, and we'll be able to share that broader playbook with you. So if you'd like a copy of that, if you want to come and see us at our stand, we'll organise to get that playbook with you. But for the interest of time and just getting some of the punchy pieces out this morning, I'm just going to cover a couple of the summary pieces. So post-pandemic investment, post-pandemic digital strategy. To me, there's three things that are absolutely critical when we talk about what it looks like moving forward. The first, less capital investment, big bang, and a lot more OPEX and evolution investment. The second piece here, making continuous improvement part of our business as usual way of doing things. Not just being about a project, but about owning products, around owning something that's continuously improved and continuously looked at and continuously invested in. And finally, because of where we're at, there's some new metrics that I think are really interesting for us to consider, not just when we look at the success of our own projects, but actually how we get them funded, how we get endorsement, and ultimately how we get approval for those projects as well. So very quickly, let's talk around less CapEx, more OPEX. We've probably all been around for enough times at the tree to know that in the early days, we did these projects that were based on huge requirements documents built over multiple months, that we'd put together a crystallized number. This is what we're going to ask for, this much money for this project, and we'll do it now. And we haven't done it in 7 years, and we won't have to do it for another 7 years. And what we realize very quickly is that we've just bought the car. We haven't left any money for petrol to run the thing. And you'd see that in the projects that you deliver. Big bang capital expenditure projects that launch to big fanfare, to a transformed organisation, only for people to say, hang on, that's not exactly what we needed, or that's not what we're after, or if only we could have tweaked that a little bit. The way we need to look at now is that a model of capital investment only, without an OPEX trail to support continuous improvement, I think is a foolish move. So when you're building your budgets, when you're talking to your CFOs, when you're talking around what your budgets will look like for project delivery over multiple years, make sure you've got some money for petrol. That's the first thing to remember. Continuous improvement is BAU. A couple of minutes ago, I did mention that by default, we've kind of caused ourselves into this world of becoming slightly more agile by the fact we just had to get stuff done. We had to say near enough is good enough. It doesn't mean that near enough is good enough and that's all we're going to do, but let's get it started. Let's get that thing live, and then we'll make the tweaks and refinements to the bits that matter, both in the things that are obvious that we see as we're building the project, but also once you've gone live. Once you've delivered, to be able to look back and say, that could really use some refinement. That's probably not working how it should. Wouldn't it be great if we also added X? Talking to your customers, talking to your stakeholders, talking to the various people within your business to get that information for a continuous improvement mindset. And I guess in the playbook, we go into a little bit of depth around the existing model and the new model. And so if I can kind of get our minds into this thinking thought of previously, we had projects. They had a start and an end. They had a capital investment. We brought on a team. We delivered what we had to. And then we all went back to doing what we did. We discovered some stuff. We designed some stuff. And we delivered some stuff. Here's where I think we're moving to. A continuous improvement model that is iterative, that cycles on itself, that has some really clear roles and responsibilities that are there for the long run, but equally some key steps that we need to do to make sure that the evolution, the improvements, and the delivery of our digital projects continues through. And you'll see here that this iterative model talks about discovery, definition of what we find, designing. On top of that, there's this piece around diverse teams. So who are the people that actually need to build? Do we have them? Do we need to bring them in? How long do we need to bring them in for? Obviously, development. A piece here around delivering and what delivery looks like, especially when we think around organisational change management. How are our customers going to connect? How are our staff going to use the technology? And finally, deciphering. So because we're not finishing something, we're coming back into a loop. We actually want to, once we've built something, have a look at it. Did it deliver what we said? Did it meet the business case? Are we getting the return we require? And if not, how do we have a cycle that allows us to do that again? You'll see at the top, there's a call out around senior stakeholder engagement and making sure that the people that are the decision makers in our organisations understand that we are on an evolution pathway, that we're not actually simply building something and having everything promised and delivered in one go. And that's a narrative that we need to start. Too many times, senior stakeholders believe that a single digital transformation project will save the day overnight, like a light switch. And I think that over-promise, under-deliver mentality creates a bad name for a lot of digital transformation. We've got the opportunity post-COVID to be able to actually take that new way of working, educate our stakeholders, and get them comfortable with continuous improvement. You'll see below that model, the other piece I've called out here is product ownership. Having someone whose responsibility it is to continuously own your transformation. Quite often we'll bring on a project manager and they'll run it for the project and then they disappear. And who owns it? Well, we all own it. Kind of, but who's accountable at the end of the day? So let me just quickly deep dive into a couple of these pieces of this new model and a couple of call-outs where I think are important. So I was just talking through that product ownership. Someone needs to be accountable. Someone needs to own your transformation. Someone needs to be able to bring the right people in, but someone needs to know that this isn't just something we do for a couple of months and when we're finished, we turn the lights off. Instead, this will be something that, is part of your business. We're looking at digital transformation. We're talking around tools that are engaging with our staff. And for Squiz, we're talking around tools that engage with your customers and new customers. Digital platforms are continuously evolving. The internet's continuously evolving. How many apps have you downloaded 5 years ago that have never been updated with new features or functionality? We should all be thinking in that mentality of what can we continue to do to build what we have? And you need someone to own that. This new model also has in it feedback cycles. So in the old world of projects, you would create a project based on a 900-page, no doubt, Times New Roman 0.8 requirements document that you've had a whole bunch of vendors tediously go through and respond to. But it's a requirements document that was built with an old mentality. You built it while you had your old technology. You built it with some thinking of the future, but you didn't build it being able to test your future. And so in this new product-driven model, one of the most important things is early and constant feedback cycles. For any of those that are agile methodologists, this is your bread and butter. How are we showing things early, tweaking and refining, and being able to make sure that when we deliver that project, it's not a surprise to people. They don't get it and go, wow, this isn't what I want at all, or it's so far from what we need. Instead, and the part that I think is most important here, wouldn't it be far better to show them early, make the tweaks on the way, than deliver something and have it totally wrong? The other piece here, when we talk around investment, one of the biggest costs that quite often is in the organisation that we don't think about always is our people, both from a digital transformation perspective, staff that may not have used digital tools before, that we need to evolve to be digital natives, but equally, when you're bringing in new technology, there's probably a good chance you don't have the experts in your organisation that are required. So when you're thinking around investment, human capital is incredibly important. And I think that the way forward is twofold. There's a fixed team, people that are your core part of the organisation, your product owner, your technologists, technology managers, developers, business analysts, people that are your core, and then be comfortable having flexible teams. And how you bring those people in, think about new ways of doing it. Contractors, maybe it's having a retainer with an organisation, maybe it's having someone 2 days a week training some people to build up those skills. I think your diverse resourcing is one of the hidden capital costs, but it's so, so important. At the end of the day, projects are strategy, they are technology, they are process, but I think most importantly, they're people. You can always tweak something with technology. If something's not right and was red and it was meant to be green, you can do that. But to actually change the mindset, to change the tool set, and ultimately have a different skill set in your staff, that's a huge investment in people. As we move forward, where people are working from home, they're slightly more detached, I think it's really important that we think about our teams. And finally, what I think here is incredibly important, if we're building these business cases, if we're trying to make our boards, our executives, steering committees comfortable with investment, we need to find some new metrics that matter. Obviously, everyone knows about ROI, but when we talk to our stakeholders, what are they asking for now? What has their experience been? For a CFO who's just had to open the purse strings to pay for VPNs and cloud licensing and laptops, and everybody's now got a monitor at home and at work. Like, we need to think about the mentality and the experience that our various stakeholders have been through. The boss is all about, let's just keep pushing on like nothing's happened. Let's not change the numbers. Let's see that growth. The master of coins, they're thinking about ROI. They're thinking about that dollar's got 7 spots it could be right now. They need to put it in the right spot to give the best return. The techies, well, it's an open world for a lot of techies these days. And they're asking how it affects digital strategy. What's it do to our infrastructure? Is that secure enough? We need to be thinking around them. And then ultimately, we need to be thinking on the people that are looking after our customer experience too. So for them, the creatives, how is this going to impact our customer experience? What's it going to do to our stakeholders? And if you have a look over the last 12 or 18 months, those that have invested and invested well have absolutely propelled as far as the success of their organisations. Those who haven't, those who have stood still, wondered a little too much, maybe aiming for perfect, not comfortable with 80% is good enough, you can see from the top side, they're falling behind. So again, these are explained, and there is literally it looks like a year 10 mathematics test book, some of the formulas that we've got inside the playbook, so that you can apply them to your organization and really understand how you get these metrics. But ROI is not just what we need now. We're actually looking through at some others. So time to value. Great, we've invested that money, but everyone's investing that money because everyone has the same problems. So how do we get there quicker? Time to value is an incredibly important metric to look at. You're still spending the same dollar, you still get the ROI, but how quickly can you get it? Acceleration rate. How can you as an organization be so efficient that actually we said we were going to deliver the project in 5 weeks, but actually we've been able to find a way through efficiencies that we can deliver that in 4 weeks. And that actually not just delivers a better return to your customer, but actually as a business, it allows you to get onto the next problem quicker. And pace of progress. So again, when you look at the organization, it's a measure that allows to understand the change over time. So by becoming a more agile organization, by becoming a more digitally native organization, by channel shifting your customers from being just in store or just on campus or just on the phone to a more omni-channel approach, what does that progress change do to your organization? What revenue does that unlock? What new revenue does that create? What does that allow you to do from a business perspective to continue to evolve? Like I said, these are very quick snapshots here. These metrics, we go into a lot more detail in the playbook. And if you want to talk through some of them, absolutely, we're here to share and have a chat with as well. But don't just think ROI. Because once upon a time, as an organization, you may be up to doing a digital transformation and other businesses may not be as mature or there yet. But actually, every organization has the same problems and they've got them at the same time at the moment. So everyone's thinking digital transformation. Everyone's thinking cloud first. Everyone's thinking about ways to engage with their customers in new omni-channel approaches. So it's not just about getting it done. It's not just about starting. It's not just about being comfortable that 80% is good enough and we'll come back and look at those other things. It's actually also about being able to get it done at a rate of speed. So I think this is really important. We know we can do it. We've just done it in the most trying circumstances over the last 18 months, while we're also trying to juggle having kids at home and putting on dinner in between conference calls and not being able to just be around the water cooler with those people and have those natural conversations, that everything and everyone is being booked into a meeting. You can't just have a kind of relaxing chat with someone. You've got to book a semi-formal 30-minute chat where we do the obligatory 3 or 4 minutes at the start talking about how bad COVID is. But we've done it. We've been able to deliver amazing things in our organisations that have kept our organisations running. We've done it with a risk profile. So let's not stop there. Let's take that momentum. Let's take the good things that have come from that and get some shit done. Thanks so much for your attention. Thanks so much for being interested in how we do digital transformation in the future. Thanks for being here as well in person. This is really nice, isn't it? We're around upstairs. You'll see the Squiz stand. We have some of our digital experts here, some of our technologists as well. But on a day like today, with a little bit of rain outside, stay inside, come up and have a chat. We'd love to see how your organisation's going. Thanks so much.